So let's start the new session, experiments, and our first presenters are Glatz and Nhiem.
Well, welcome, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about our experiences. So I'm Nhiem, this is Glatz, and we're looking forward to talk a bit about how you can move a mountain with microservices. So let's start. Well, we all know about, we feel it, the need for speed, especially in terms of digital transformation. Everyone is talking in their organization about we need lighthouse projects or speedboats. But how can you achieve this? And one thing is, to do so, we need agility and flexibility. And we know these are two things which microservice can do. So, but there's one thing in organizations in the room. It's a big elephant. In our case, it's a mountain. And so it's the monolith, it's the mainframe, the old applications, the legacy applications, and how do we deal with them to go ahead and to digitally transform ourselves. Well, we have these little helpers, these little ice climbers, who can then move along and say, hey, how about we try to tackle the mountain in this way, let's say replatforming or rehosting, transforming. Retaining is also an option, and so there are various approaches to do so, but the big question is which way to go. And dealing with a monolith is very similar like dealing with a PhD, writing it up. We all see the mountain, and what do? A lot of people say, let's postpone it for another year. Maybe we find a way around it, or some people say, yeah, let's go ahead. And the question now is, are microservices the holy grail? We learned yesterday or the day before, they are not a silver bullet. And so we need to think about how we use them. We all know about the advantages of microservices, but we also know about the disadvantages in terms of dependency health, complexity, and testing. So is it written in the stars? What can we do? And for this, we're here to talk a little bit about our experiences. So we had one project in 2015 where a large government body was trying to get rid of their mainframe, their monolith, and they had over 100 applications on them. Their motivation there was to get rid of it by the end of 2018 because the mainframe licenses would renew then, and they would have to do it for another 3 years, the whole thing, and we're talking about multiple millions just for the license. The other big concern for them was the aging workforce and the loss of skills and knowledge, because those guys who did the application 30 years ago are going now to retirement, and what do we do then? So, and that was their main thing. But 100 applications on a mainframe, it's not an easy thing to tackle. So what do really? They did first an in-depth analysis and did a staged approach to look in terms of which application should we just get rid of, which application has been already replaced by new development, and which application can we maybe migrate using tools. And so on. Through this staged process, they were able to really tackle this huge mountain and in the end get rid of the monolith by the end of 2018. And it's funny, you read in the literature about all these approaches, replatforming, refactoring, and it all sounds so clear-cut. But in real life, it's not like this. So if we look at this, you have this chunk, this application from your mainframe with monolith piece. And there are ways you can deal with this. So in a stepped approach, you can first say, okay, we'll look at it, we try to refactor it, shape it a bit nicer, redevelop it, and that'll do. But often it might not be enough, and so you can do like a two-step approach. First, you get a thing like a transformer, run it through, change it a bit, and then do the refactoring. Or in a three-step approach, you do the transforming, then you do a replatforming, and then do the refactoring. So it's a combination of various approaches which you need to do in real life, and it's much more massaging and caring than you would think. And I'll head over now to Gert, who will tell you a bit more about how they did it at Adesso.
Thank you. So in comes the Adesso transformer. So what exactly is the transformer? It's basically a piece of software that takes some ancient COBOL or PL1 code, so really, really old code, and just transforms it into Java, into maintainable Java code. That's basically all it does. That's one of the building blocks we use for this migration. Nhiem has mentioned refactoring a couple of times. Trimming the fat. Probably many of us are fond of Italian cuisine. So how many of you know vitello tonato? Okay, for those who don't, it's veal cooked very long and sliced, nice slices, and you put on some tuna sauce. Very tasty. My wife is an expert. Very, very good. So what does this have to do with refactoring? Simple. The slices. The slices are important. So what does it mean? Slice software. So you have some legacy software. It's really a huge, big ball of mud. Key is you define bounded contexts. We have heard about bounded contexts for the last 2 days. Don't need to explain that. So it's really crucial for that to be the basis for the refactoring, to have all the nice bounded contexts, and for that to work best, you put together developers and domain experts. They find together a ubiquitous language, and then once this is established, the development team can refactor. Stop. Not so fast. Because usually you have, like Conway's Law, you have your front-end team, you have a middleware team, you have a database team. Doesn't work so nicely if you just throw the 3 teams together. You want to go the matrix way, like the vertical. So you want to get a couple of UI guys, a couple of middleware guys, a couple of database guys, and get them together, and they will do the right job, and they will refactor the thing properly. So you have part of your software is now refactored. You have done a huge step because that part is now maintainable. You can extend it. You can turn it into a microservice. So you can just cut it out of your legacy monolith and then just turn it into a microservice. But beware of what you're doing there. You have to be aware of the restructuring in your organization. So it's not just, we do this, but see how you can reorganize your development teams, and the things will work out quite nicely. Okay, so with that, I pass back to Nhiem.
Wonderful. So one thing, of course, is also, while technically a lot of things are possible, you always have to think about the organizational and human aspects. And like in our example, it was very important to also make sure we had a knowledge transfer concept in place, a training concept in place, to ensure that we can pass on the knowledge of the old developers to the new developers who are moving it into the new world. But also, how can we motivate the old ones so to share their knowledge, and their aspects like pair programming were really important to get on with this. So I have another thing besides the transforming and refactoring, which we see nowadays is also now quite common and in fashion. So it's a whole low-code, model-driven approach. So and we all heard about the Mendic story, which has been sold to Siemens, and it's really a new way of thinking about software development, dealing more with the models, and I brought to you a new challenger for the market. It's a company here in Dortmund, and they've developed the organic platform. So following this idea of low code and model-driven software development, their idea is in the end to utilize business processes, allowing you to focus on the processes, configure them with little effort in terms of coding, and allowing then the user to enjoy enterprise apps. This is based on all the advantages of microservice architecture, and it's an interesting thing because in the end you can put it within a classic SOA architecture. And the beauty of this is you can access your legacy systems, your legacy data, and you get the speed you need for your digital transformation without having to say, oh, we need more functionality in our monolith, which of course we all know is really difficult to just quickly realize. Talking is good, but seeing is better. So I brought you a little example here. We can see this is a workflow modeler of the organic platform. There you can now model your process, and for each activity you can in the end configure and configure it by selecting from a template. In the example, you're choosing a planning view, which is a classical Gantt chart, and all you need to do is for this process then, once you save it, you have done in the end all you need to do, because this is the dashboard of the platform. It refreshes, and now the app has been developed, and it's really interesting to do this in that way. So it takes out the complexity of coding and getting more into the user experience, talking to the customer about what do they need. So in conclusion, what do we do about our monolith? The monolith from today, which you can see on the left, might not be there on the right in future, but you might still see and feel the reflections of it, can feel the impact, the complexity, the dependencies, and it always depends on, of course, what is your motivation? Why are you trying to tackle the mountain? Is it because the legacy system is costing us a lot of money? Is it because we are running out of our skilled employees who have the knowledge? Or is it just because we just don't like it and we want to do something cool, do something new? So that's really the thing. And as Peter mentioned, sun is good. So for us, the sun is there too. And it's a new dawn in this whole field. And there are various approaches which are really exciting. And so we are getting there to get rid of the monolith if we want to. Thank you very much.
So, questions? Nobody? Okay. So in this case, I have a question for you. As far as I understood, you have already finished this experiment, because you said it was at the end of 2018. So what was the most challenging part for you?
Well, dealing with all the apps and identifying dependencies, because 100 applications are of course also not individually. They are depending on each other and share their data, but also understanding how each application works, the business logic, which was documented once, but the documentation was a majority of it was destroyed. So that was really exciting to talk to people and try to find out what does it mean.
What about transferring the knowledge? You said it was very important. Was it difficult?
Well, it's of course difficult because you have to deal with humans. But the main thing was really to guide them, to show them, and to motivate them how to document. So using a wiki-like style thing where they can put in their knowledge. We've suggested doing video documentaries where they can just sit for half an hour in front of a camera and just talk about what's in their mind. And so there are various activities which we then tackled with them.